Today we are going to be taking really nasty equations that have fractions and decimals in them, and our goal is to make them look super pretty. Whenever I say make them look pretty, that means I want you to eliminate all fractions, decimals, and parentheses to make the equation look normal to you. So the steps, the way we're going to do this is we are going to first locate the fractions. We're going to locate the fractions. We're going to find the LCM. Then we're going to multiply each and every term on both sides of by the LCD, on both sides of the equation by the LCD. This cancels out the denominator and eliminates the fractions. Okay, what this means is whenever you multiply by your LCD, if it did not eliminate the fraction, then you did it wrong. So let's go ahead and try this. So our first problem, 5x divided by 2 plus 3 equals 7/5. So we're going to first find our fractions. Our fractions are 2 and 5. So what is my first multiplication table in common between 2 and 5? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 5, 10, 15, 20. This is how you were taught years ago. The first one they have in common is 10. And if you recall, on Friday, I told you to only do the multiplication tables of your 5 and say, does 2 go into 5 evenly? No. Does 2 go into 10 evenly? Yes. So your LCD is going to be the number 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the entire equation by 10. And we're going to put that distributive property on the right-hand side, and we're going to distribute that in. Now, we're going to do the cross-reducing like we did previously. On Friday, if you distributed this in, what you actually have is 5x over 2 times 10 over 1. And just like I taught you on Friday, we are going to look diagonally and look if we can cross-reduce. What's in common between 10 and 2? 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the division first. So whenever I do the division first here, that is going to give me 10 divided by 2 is 5. Then I'm simply going to drop down the numerator. The numerator is going to be a 5x. Notice I no longer have a fraction. So now I'm going to go to the second one. The second term is the number 3. It is not a fraction, so you are simply going to multiply 3 times 10, which is 30, equals, go to the third number. The third number is a fraction. So we're going to do that cross-canceling, which is the division first. So 10 divided by 5 is going to be what number? 2, and then you're going to drop down that numerator, which is going to be the 7. So I'm going to drop that down, and this is what we have. So if I multiply this together, I have 25x plus 30 is equal to 14. I don't want you to solve it today. I just want you to make it look pretty. So that's how we did this problem. Okay? Let's do the next one together. Same exact procedure. Do I have a fraction? I do. It's 4 and 6x. So I'm going to circle the biggest number. The biggest number in my denominator is the 6. So I'm going to do my multiplication table. 6, 12, 18, 24. Does 4 go into 6 evenly? No, it does not. So I mark that off. Does 4 go into 12 evenly? Yes, it does. So this is my LCD. My LCD number is 12. However, do you guys see this lovely little X here? I'm going to erase the highlights so that you can see what I'm talking about. Do you see that X? You can't forget it. It's like going to the mall with your sibling and then leaving them there and forgetting to bring them home. It's not going to end well for you. You have got to remember it was in the denominator, so you have to bring it as part of the LCD. Okay? So now we're going to multiply every single term by 12x. When I do that, I'm going to do that cross-canceling that we learned, and I'm going to do division first. What is 12x divided by 4? 12x divided by 4 is going to be 3x. And then I'm simply going to drop down everything that you see in the numerator. So everything that we see in the numerator is going to be 7 parentheses x minus 3. Okay? Go to the second one. 12x divided by 6x, because it is a fraction. 12x divided by 6x is going to be simply 2. And again, I'm going to drop down the numerator, which is going to be the number 2. And that is going to equal, the last term is not a fraction. Since it's not a fraction, I simply do the multiplication. 12 times 8 is going to be 96x. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the 3 and the 7 and multiply them together to give me 21x times x minus 3 plus a 4 is equal to 96x. Now I'm going to distribute again 21x times x. Remember we talked about this last week? X times x is going to be x squared. 21 times 3 is going to be a minus 63x plus 4 is equal to 96x. Do I have any fractions? No. Do I have any parentheses? No. Do I have any decimals? No. I have made it look pretty. That's all I want you to do today. Okay? Now, when you're given decimals, there's two ways you can do this. You can take every decimal and you can change it into a fraction. So the way you do that is by looking at the place value. This first place value right here is what we call the tenths place. This is the hundredths, and then this is the thousands. Okay? So if I take the last place that I see, which is the digit 5, and I look at the place value that the digit 5 is in, that is the thousands place. So I could have 625 divided by 1,000, and if I reduce that, that gives me 5/8. But you're still dealing with fractions. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to move the decimal point over 3 units and deal with bigger numbers. For example, I give you this problem right here, 0.25 parentheses x minus 3 minus 0.75x equals 0.5. I want you to find your decimals. Here's a decimal, here's a decimal, and here's your decimal. I want you to find the biggest place value, okay? I should say the largest number of place values in the problem. So this has 2 place values. This has 2 place values, and this has 1 place value. Do we all understand that? Because this is the tenths, this is the hundredths, this is the hundredths, and this is the tenths. So we're going to move this over 2 decimal places. Move to the right 2 decimal places. On each term. Okay? So that means I'm going to take this decimal, I'm going to move it twice. So that 0.25 turns into 25. Parentheses, drop down the parentheses, do not mess with any of it. Go to the next one. Minus, you're going to move this from 0.75 to make that 75x equals. You are going to move this over 2 units. However, if I go over 2 units, I'm out of space, so I have to tack on a 0 there to make that a 50. Do we see that I moved those all over 2 decimal places? And I made life so much easier for myself, so I have 25x minus 75 minus 75x is equal to 50. No fractions, no decimals, and no parentheses. Okay? Let's do it again. So let's highlight our decimals. I have 0.125, 0.4, and 0.16. So there are 3 place values here, 1 place value here, and 2 place values here. So I need to find the biggest place value that I need to deal with, which is 3. So this means I'm going to move how many times? Move to the right. Three place values. Okay? So what this means is I'm going to have, instead of 0.125, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 125x plus, well, the 0.4 is now going to turn into 1, 2, 3. So 400 times x plus 2 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 160. Tacking on those zeros. 125x plus 400x plus 800 is equal to 160. No fractions, no decimals, no parentheses. Okay. Now, the next one. I've talked about every time, all the examples I've done so far have been examples where the fractions are on the outside of the parenthesis. Now, what happens when you have a fraction on the inside of the parenthesis? When the fraction is on the inside of the parenthesis, then you must first distribute in order to eliminate the parenthesis. So you're going to multiply your fractions just like we did previously. So this means I'm going to put this 2 over 1, and I'm going to multiply. So this is a 2x, because that really doesn't change anything, but I'm going to go over here, and 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 5 is 5, is equal to 4 over 7. I have no parentheses anymore. So now I'm going to locate my fractions. My fractions are 5 and 7. And I'm going to realize I have to do my multiplication tables of 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 21, 28. 7 times 5 is going to be 35. So what's the first one that's going to go into it? Well, we talked about this the other day. None of them have to end in 5 or 0, so I have to do the 35. So what we're going to do is multiply this entire equation by 35. So if I distribute to the first term, that's a multiplication. That's not a fraction. So 2 times 35 is 70x. This is a fraction when I multiply 6/5 times 35. So I'm going to do the division first, which is what we learned with the cross canceling. So 35 divided by 5 is going to be 7. And I drop down this lovely numerator of 6 equals, go to the last fraction. And again, you're going to do the division first, which is the cross canceling. So 35 divided by 7 is going to be 5, and then drop down the 4, and simply multiply those out. 70x minus 42 is equal to 20. No fractions, no decimals, no parentheses. So let's go again. So if I do this problem, I have a fraction inside the parenthesis, and since I have a fraction on the inside of the parenthesis, I'm going to go ahead and multiply my fraction inside. So I'm going to have 2 over 5x minus, multiply the top numbers together, 2 times 3 is 6, multiply the bottom numbers together, and this is 35, minus 5x over 8 is equal to 3. Now, when you go to do this part of the problem, what I want you to do is simply take 35 times 8, and that's going to give you 280. Why am I taking 35 times 8? Because 35 times 8 is 280, and I know that 8 goes into 280. I also know that 35 goes into 280, and I also know it ends in a 0, so 5 goes into 280. So at this point, we're going to multiply the entire equation by 280. So we're going to take 280 and divide it by 5, and that's going to give you 56. Drop down the numerator of 2x minus, go to the next term, 280 divided by 35 is going to give you 8. Drop down the 6. Go to the next term, 280 divided by 8 is going to give you a 35, and drop down the numerator of 5x equals, and then this is not a fraction, so 280 times 3 is going to give you 840. Now, they're bigger numbers, but I'd rather deal with bigger numbers than deal with fractions. So 56 times 2 is 112x minus 8 times 6, which is 48, minus 35 times 5, which is 175x is equal to 840. No fractions, no decimals, no parentheses. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Now, this is a little bit different than what we did before. This has an expression. It has the 2x minus 3, which is very different than just x, which is very different than just, oh, I need a lighter color, which is very different than the 2, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply all of those together to come up with the LCD. So your LCD is going to be 2x times 2x minus 3. So when in doubt, multiply them all together. So what you're going to do is now you're going to multiply the entire thing by 2x times 2x minus 3. When we do that, go to the first fraction, and what cancels out is going to be this x and this x. And what you're going to be left with is going to be 2 parentheses 2x minus 3 times what? The numerator, because the numerator never goes away. Okay? That numerator never goes away. Okay? Go to the second one. This time what cancels out is going to be the 2x minus 3. So these go away, and what you're going to be left with is going to be the 2x, and then times that numerator again, which is 2. And that's going to equal. Go to the last one. This time, this 2 and this 2 cancel out, so you're going to have an x times a 2x minus 3 times a 5x. This 1 does not change the problem at all. So I have a 4x minus 3, nope, minus a 6, sorry about that, plus a 4x is equal to a 5x squared times a 2x minus 3. And you guys don't have to go any further with that. This is a much more in-depth example. I'm not worried about that anymore, but I wanted to give you an idea of what to look for. Okay, this one right here. It's going to be finding the fractions. I have a fraction on the inside. So since I have a fraction on the inside, I have to multiply. So 15 over 7x minus negative 2 times negative 5 is going to be a plus 10. And negative times a negative is a positive. Put this 2 over 1. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 4 is 4x equals 5 over 8x. Now, I'm going to look at this right here, and I'm going to say, hey, this 6 over 4 reduces. So I'm going to reduce that. 15 over 7x plus a 10 is equal to a 3. I lied, that's a plus sign. Plus a 3 over 2x is equal to a 5 over 8x. Divide the 6 by 2, and you get 3. Divide the 4 by 2, you get 2. Now, where are my fractions at? My fractions are going to be my 7, my 2, and my 8x. So I'm going to circle the biggest one, which is going to be my 8x. So this is the one that I need to look at. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Times 3 is 24. times 4 is 32, times 5 is 40, times 6 is 42, times 7 is 56. 7 does not go into either of these numbers until you get to 56. Because 2 is even, 56 is going to be my LCD. But I can't forget that little x that is attached. So it's 56x. So if I multiply every single term by 56x, okay, every single term, 56 divided by 7 is going to be an 8. The x stays, and the drop down to 15x. Plus, this is not a fraction, so you multiply, so that's 560x. Plus 56 divided by 2, because it is a fraction, is going to be 28x times a 3x, because that x is actually in the numerator on both of those, is equal to 56x divided by 8x is going to be a 7, and I drop down the 5. So 8x times 15 is going to give me 120x squared plus 560x plus 28 times 3 is going to give you an 84x squared plus a 35. That's as hard as they get, guys. Tonight's worksheet is simply going to be, do not solve the equations, only eliminate the fractions and make it look pretty. That means no fractions, no parentheses, and no decimals. Tomorrow we will go over every single one of these problems. I am not going to be moving fast this week. This is all we're going to do for the next 3 days. So don't stress. We will get it done together. Have a great day.